In a lot of my videos, I'll try and give practical examples of whatever it is that I'm talking about. I'll play something and I'll put the chords underneath so you can see what I'm playing. But I often get comments from people saying, why don't my chords sound like your chords? What special sauce am I putting on my chords to make them sound different to yours? Well, in this video, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to do my best to answer that question. Now, I've been playing the piano for over 25 years. And over that time, gradually you build up all these bits and bobs that help you improve as a player. And it ends up becoming this sort of automatic thing you do. I find it quite difficult to actually analyze the choices I'm making as a piano player, because most of the time I'm not even thinking about what I'm playing. A lot of it has become muscle memory. But I've done my best to analyze what it is I'm doing when I'm playing and the approach that I'm taking. I'm going to try and explain what's going on and how it's different to the more rudimentary stuff that we learn when we first start playing. I've also put together a PDF summary of all the points I'm going over in this video, so you can get your hands on that. Link is in the description. So I assume the people asking these questions are maybe seeing a chord progression like this and just playing really simple triads, maybe in different inversions, or maybe even arpeggiating. Arpeggiating their triads, something simple. If you're not already using different inversions of your chords, then that's the first place to start. But I'm not going to go over that in this video. Now, a really important thing to learn about playing with chords and improvising with chords is to understand that chord symbols give you information, they don't give you instructions. So how you interpret that chord symbol comes down to your level of ability and the style of music you're playing. Now, when I first started learning to play with chords and piano, I did it in a very simple, rudimentary way. I learned my root, third and fifth of my chords, and when I saw my chord symbol, that's what I played in probably different inversion. But now I've realized that I approach chords in a different way, and I've broken that down into 4 different approaches, which we're going to talk about today. Let's get started. I'm going to start off by trying to unpack what is probably the most fundamental element of my approach to playing like this. And I think it underlines the other approaches that we're going to look at too. I'm going to call it key context. And what this is effectively separating my 2 hands, where my left hand, its job is to outline the chords and the chord progression, and my right hand's job is to explore the key context of what I'm playing. So simply with a progression like C, A minor, F, G, C, my left hand's job is to outline the chords, and I'll do that mostly by just using the root note and the 5th above, playing together. And then my right hand's job is to fill in the colour using the notes within the key context. So I'm not thinking about chords or playing triads or full chord shapes. I'm thinking about the key context. So how do I know what notes to play? Well, this chord progression are just chords from key of C major. So C major, I've got all the notes within C major to use. So I can think about using just individual notes along with my left hand. Or I could use intervals. To get a good grip on this, you need to have a good understanding of your keys and to be able to recognize what function the chords in your progressions play. So for example, you need to know that if you're in the key of E, you've got 4 sharps, and these are the notes you've got available, but also you've got these specific chords available to you within that key. So let's go through some practical examples for ways that you can practice playing like this. So we'll start off by taking that same progression, and we'll start off by just outlining the chord for the left hand. Just get used to playing through the movement with your left hand. Maybe just change between playing the notes together and then maybe separating. If we're separating, we want to play the bass note, the low note, the root note first. And then when you're ready, what I want you to do is just add in with your right hand Just some notes, just single notes from our key center. Explore, see what you discover, see what you like, but try and keep that left hand going, moving through as we are. And spend some time doing that. Get used to it. Get used to the sounds. Get used to maybe what notes work well. Obviously, playing that missing third from our chord that we don't have in our left hand is going to sound nice and steady and stable. So playing that E on that C chord, playing the C on that A minor, the A on that, it's going to sound nice and stable. So recognizing that we can still use those strong chord tones, the root, third and fifth in the notes that we're choosing, but we're not thinking about it in terms of a chord or a triad. We're separating it into notes. And once you spend some time doing that and getting used to that, I want you to start thinking about adding some intervals. Sixths work really nicely. Okay, fifths work nice, fifths and fourths. Even major seconds and minor seconds can sound really nice over chords like this. So explore using various intervals together. I've talked about this before in another video, but it slots in really nicely here, is that we can have our C and our G, the root and the fifth of our key context. So we're in the key of C, the root and the fifth, and we can play those two notes over all the chords in the key. And this also works on our 2 and our 5. Those are the D and the G. More of an interesting sound. So now we know that we can use those two and those two. Let's put them both together. Maybe take them up and down the octave. And all the time our left hand is outlining what our progression is just by playing the root and the fifth. So effectively these are all birthed of the same technique, merely taking the notes we have within our key and exploring different ways of putting them together, while our left hand, playing the root and the fifth, takes care of the harmonic movement. The more you do this, the more you'll start to learn what notes, intervals and movements work really nicely with different chords. But do pay attention to what you're doing so you can identify and recognize which are the nice bits so that you can learn them and add them to your vocabulary. So although I'm not strictly playing all the fundamental sort of notes of the chord that we know from our triad, an A minor is an A, C and an E. But if I'm not playing a C, is it still an A minor? You know, we're still playing chords. So like a C to A minor there. There's no third in my C, so I've got no E, and I've got no third in my A minor. But because of that movement with our left hand, we still get this harmonic context of what we're doing. We still feel that we're moving from a C to an A minor, even though we're missing some notes. It's a little bit like a colouring book. Our left hand is the outline of what the image looks like, and our right hand and what it creates is the colouring and the shading of the image. That makes sense, right? Okay, let's move on to our second point. Rhythms and articulations. I think one of the big things about developing your playing is just as much about how you play the notes as what notes you're playing. I don't think I can stress enough how much the phrasing and the rhythms, how you're spreading the chords, is vital to adding colour and variety to your sound. You've seen already that when I'm playing in these examples, I'm very rarely ever just playing simple downbeats. Don't get me wrong, there is definitely a place for just playing steady downbeats. But in a lot of my examples here, I'm spreading these rhythms, these notes, these shapes, these ideas all over the shop. If we think about our time as a grid, and I'm breaking that up into 16th notes, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, then I'm placing my notes and chords and shapes and intervals all over the place on that grid, not just on the downbeats. Also, pay attention to the articulation of those notes. They're not all played at the same velocity. The light and shade and the dynamics makes a huge impact. So some notes are definitely quieter than others. And some definitely louder. Makes a big impact how we spread our notes, articulations, dynamics. Really important. So as an exercise, let's take that progression and just with the idea of dynamics and rhythms, I want you to get used to playing this pattern over that same progression. So our left hand is going to outline our rhythm and our chords. But our right hand, we're just going to use that idea of that fifth and root and fifth. We're going to go. Listen to the articulation. So that second we're going quiet, quiet, loud, louder, and then soft again. After we got comfortable with that, it's just our right hand playing those two notes. Let's introduce some other notes or chords with the same feel. And get used to that, and then start mixing up some different rhythms, but accentuating some offbeats, and also thinking very much about dynamics. Up to now, the techniques we've looked at have both been quite exploratory, quite organic, nothing too locked down. But I want to look at some approaches now that are based around some more fixed ideas. So let's have a look at voicings. Now, voicings are just simply a specific way of playing a certain chord. And if we can discover some nice ways that we like to voice certain chords and then learn them in all keys, it's just another way for us to get away from playing simple triads, where we could start playing specific voicings for different chords instead. So for example, I've got a few ways that I like to play minor 7 chords. So for a minor 7 chord, one of my ways I like to play, this is my left hand, so root, 5th, 9th, and then 3rd, 11th, 7th. A minor 7. So when I'm playing, so C, A minor 7 is just a nice way of playing it. So if I've got this locked down, and then I can learn it in different keys. So yeah. Then you've got it at your disposal to use whenever you like. So incorporating it in with the other way we were playing before, you know, when we get to our sort of A minor, we can use it. So also for major 7 chords or for major chords, I like to this voicing, so root and 5th in my left hand, 9th, 3rd, and major 7 in my right hand. So I could have C major 7 on my A minor, F major 9. So that's the chord progression we were just playing. But if I play it like that, so it gives you something else in your arsenal to pull out when you get to certain chords. You know, oh, I like the way that, you know, I've got this way of playing my minor 7 chord. I might do that instead of something else I was doing. So we've got a major 7, minor 7, and then here's one for a dominant 7. So this is like a G7 with a flat 9, and then a sus4, and a 5, and then the root at the top. Now you find that some of these voicings might be more sort of stylistic. It's very common within a jazz context that you have certain ways of playing certain chords, and that might not always fit into another stylistic context. So it's about finding what's appropriate for certain settings. You'll find over time different voicings that you like and start incorporating them. And like I said, learn them in your other keys so you can play the same thing in whatever key you want to play it. And then don't forget that once we've found some voicings, now we can think about what we've just talked about there's different ways to employ them. So how am I going to choose to play them? Am I just going to play everything on the downbeat? Or am I, you know, have I got options? So think creatively about how you can employ them. Think about dynamics, think about rhythms when you've got these new voicings to play. Okay, point number 4, licks and devices. Another one of these fixed approaches to getting some more vocabulary into your playing is implementing devices or licks. They're a really effective way of getting something that you think sounds good into your playing. Now this could be something as simple as this, which is just movement of intervals. So we looked at this kind of previously. On our C major chord, we've got our 2nd and our 7th that move up to our 3rd and our root. And again on F. So I'm doing the same thing on the F. The 2nd and the 7th of an F. Up to our 3rd and root. So that's just a device that we know we can pull out of our pocket when we need it on a major 7 chord, or a 1 chord, or a 4 chord. Or it could be more of a lick, something like this. Again on our 1 chord. With that lick, we could actually use it over the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. The 4. So Again, having something like that in your back pocket that you can pull out when you need it to add something a bit more interesting, and having it in different keys as well, so being able to play it in different keys. Yeah. So having that ability to just pull it out when you need it, it's going to add some more color to your playing. I'll share a couple more sort of devices that I often use with you. So first one is triad pairs. So the idea is in the key of C, we've got our 1 chord and our 2 chord. I can use them together. I can use them on kind of any chord in the key. So having that and using them in different inversions. So that's another device that I can pull out when I need it. Okay, the last one I'm going to show you could be something as simple as maybe at the end of a tune, you've gone. That idea, this sort of sus idea. That's a device that you can use. If you learn that and learn it in different keys. Then you have that at the end. If you're in a, you're in a song and you finish. It's a device that you can pull out when you need it. It's not something that's just completely improvised. You've got all these little pockets of things that you can draw from, and if you've got some things that are there, so it's like a C, and then I'm playing like a sus, or effectively it's like an F over C, F A C. I'm just moving my inner voices up. And once you get that under your fingers, and then try it in a different key. Building up a library of devices and licks means that you're going to have this arsenal full of really cool little bits that you can just whack out whenever you want. That sounds weird. Don't whack it out whenever you want. So that's the 4 separate sections that I'm going to talk about in this video. But ultimately, when I'm playing, I'm combining and mixing and matching all of those different things together. So let's play something and try and incorporate all of those things. So at some points there, I was just starting off with picking some notes, and then I went into, I sort of arpeggiated that voicing that I've told you I like. Another voicing, I think I played with that major 7 that we've talked about. Played some intervals. I played that device of the 2 chord and the 1 chord. I played that lick, I think I played it on the G as well as the C, and then I finished off with that device. So incorporating all those little bits together that made one piece, and that's what I'm using all those devices. So when I'm just sort of noodling around on the piano, that's all I'm incorporating really. It's just a bunch of these sorts of things. I appreciate I've flown through some of those bits quite quickly, but obviously the beauty of YouTube is that you can pause, you can rewind, you can slow it down, and you can watch it as many times as you like. So in summary, these approaches are a move away from thinking that we've got to play our chord symbols as a root, 3rd and 5th. Remember, chord symbols give us information but not instructions. There's plenty more things we can do. Don't get me wrong though, there are times where we do want to play, and we should be playing just simple triads. I think the sign of a good musician maybe is knowing when to do what. But hopefully I've given you some ideas and maybe some ammunition if you are someone who was struggling to break out from just those simple triads. Don't forget to grab your PDF, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.